I'm Jordan.
And I'm Rosanna.
And on this podcast, we explore how to take life off autopilot
and relentlessly pursue a life worth living together. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 6 of the Relentless Pursuit podcast, Live What You Love, an interview with Shannon and Greg Buth. In January of 2020, I saw a post by someone that has done photos for us before, and she was promoting House of Shan. And so I had started following this business just a little over a year ago. And House of Shan is empowering others to live what you love on a daily basis. Shannon has designed apparel that includes an imperfect heart on every piece, and the heart signifies a daily reminder to live your passion, laugh every day, love deeply, and to never quit your daydream. House of Shan also donates $5 from every purchase to a local women's charity. So the company was founded in January of 2020. We're kind of closing out to the end of January 2021. And in that year, Shannon has donated over $20,000 to organizations.
It's a lot of money. This was one of my favorite conversations, and I felt privileged to speak to, sometimes we talk to just one person who's kind of an expert in the area or running with their vision. So this was really nice to talk to a couple and kind of see how they make it work behind the scenes and are still thriving as individuals and as a family as well. So we'll tell you a little bit more about Shannon and Greg. They've known each other since they were just kids, growing up in Minnesota. They're high school sweethearts. Oh, it's just like us. Who found their way back to each other in their late 20s, and now they raise an incredible, spirited, crazy crew of 4 boys together in Chicago's Roscoe Village neighborhood. Shannon made a career out of her passion for fashion and worked for a California-based clothing company for most of her 20s, and then was the very first stylist at Trunk Club. She stepped back from work after the birth of their twins, who were born 19 months after their first son. And Greg has worked in the trading industry for the last 20 years and has traded everything from soybeans to the Eurodollar options on the floor of the Board of Trade.
So what I really loved about this interview is that Shannon started this business that wasn't intended to be a business, and now her and Greg are working together to help build this brand. It's been more than just some retail items, but it's a business, a brand with a mission, and it's inspiring other people to love people around them.
Yeah, there's a lot of really positive elements that have come together over the last year, and it was really refreshing to hear their story.
So during this episode, you'll hear about how House of Shan got started and how it evolved into a brand people are getting behind. You'll hear about the role that having a mission and charity play in what they're doing. You'll also hear them talk about juggling business and family, especially during a pandemic, and the role that making mistakes plays in getting better, learning, and thriving.
That's right. So a lot to learn from. We hope you enjoy this interview, and as always, stick around afterwards for a few of our thoughts and takeaways as well. All right, Shannon and Greg, thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's so great to have you on the show. About a year ago, someone that I used as a photographer once for my kids, that was a friend of a friend, had posted that she was taking photos for this new business, House of Shan, had posted a little bit about it with some photos. And, right away when someone posts about a new business, I'm always curious to see, what is she talking about? What is she standing and getting behind? And so I clicked on it and had started following you. And over the last year have just seen House of Shan and Live What You Love explode. And so I reached out to you, and you reached right back out right away, like a personal email from the woman behind the business. So kind, so sweet, and was like, yeah, I'd love to do an interview. So thank you guys so much for being here today. Tell us a little bit about what House of Shan is, what the backstory is, and a little bit about this past year for you guys.
Yeah. So, well, basically, I would say House of Shan started as more of a community, more than a brand. I started this mom's group when my 3 oldest were babies and life seemed really hard. It seemed isolating. And so I started a mom's group, and it kind of grew and grew. And basically the premise of it is getting women together to connect. I would have speakers come in and talk about relevant mom topics, and we had a chance to have a glass of wine, have dinner, and be away from our kids and just talk. So I feel like over the years that connection has grown into this, kind of huge community of women. And I decided in 2019, I decided I wanted to put it online. and kind of marry all the things that I love. This community of women talk, kind of post about some of these topics that we share at our moms groups, and have some of the speakers write articles, and then of course share my love for fashion, kind of just put it all in one spot and reach more women. And it was a really fun year in 2019, just kind of exploring new things and doing new things, like from my position as like mom and manager of the house and all of that. So to kind of get out of my comfort zone. And the blog, it has this imperfect heart, and that's always been kind of like the unofficial, I guess, logo for my blog that Greg's brother helped me create. Greg's brother's a creative and he works in design. He's awesome. And so it's in the imperfect heart, just kind of exemplifies, nobody's perfect. We're all just doing the best we can. And, just kind of like living our lives, even though, social media will tell you a different story. This imperfect heart is just kind of embracing that imperfect. So with this moms group, I do a mistletoe market every holiday season, and it's a way to get everyone together for a little holiday party, and then kind of showcase some of the women that have different companies and small businesses. People make things, different ornaments and artists and things like that. So I had this idea this past holiday. I'm like, well, what if I made this heart into a sweatshirt? So I talked to Greg's brother. He was my ear.
He was in town.
Yeah, he was in town. Yeah. And so I was like, hey, Kev, what do you think about this idea for the sweatshirt? I have, putting this heart onto a sweatshirt, embroidering it on there. And he was like, well, yeah, just do it. Let's just go for it. And I feel like sometimes you need that person, right? To just force you to do something like that. Like I feel like if he would have been like, I don't know, I probably wouldn't have done it.
He had a wholesale account due to his business with alternative apparel, and they got on, they picked one they like, and they ordered like 20 of them. Yeah. And then he gave us the vector file, and we found an embroidery shop, and she just made it.
Yeah. So it was like that. It wasn't like I always say it wasn't some big business plan. It was more of like, I kind of want to share this on a sweatshirt and just like, and call it the Live What You Love sweatshirt. And I have a story behind that too. And I had this idea. I think it was just kind of like deep in my head, and I finally said it out loud. So, and even then, like 20 sweatshirts seemed so daunting. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. What if nobody buys them? And then this mistletoe market, I had this donation component where we kind of partnered with a shelter where we wanted to raise some money for them. And so I decided I wanted to put some of the proceeds, if anything sold, back to this shelter. And then we had a raffle. Anyways, we ended up raising $1,000 for the shelter. All of my sweatshirts, all 20 of my sweatshirts sold, which I couldn't believe it. And there was a wait list after. So I had a talk with Greg after going to the shelter, and it just made me feel so good to just be able to donate that, small amount of money, but it felt like I kind of made an impact. And I was like, I kind of want to just keep going with this and make some more sweatshirts, put them on my website, and then see what happens. And then honestly, I couldn't believe it. Like they just started selling, and it was word of mouth. People shared, I think, because of the message behind it. And I always say, when I went to write the card, because I wanted to have this meaning behind it, I went and I wrote down what I wanted it to mean. And I wrote it, and I didn't change a thing. And I can say it by heart because I know I say it all the time. It's an imperfect heart stitched over your heart, as a daily reminder to live your passion, laugh every day, love deeply, lift others up, and don't ever quit your daydream. And it was funny because I wrote it and it just like came out of me. I feel like it's just been in there, and I just, so I feel like that is why this has grown over the year. I feel like this has been a tough year for all of us, and we all kind of miss connecting with people. And it's kind of been a way for people to share love with people in the mail. I've wrote so many sweet notes for people over the year. And one of my friends said to me today, she's like, I feel like your notes that you write could be a coffee table book someday. I'm like, oh, that'd be kind of cool. It's just so genuine. Like when people are sick, people have gathered around people and bought sweatshirts for all their friends to support a friend, or celebrate something, or just send a birthday gift, and it means so much to me. So
well, I saw on I saw on Instagram today, you had like, it looked like 20 boxes that one person bought something for like 20 people that like, it was for Valentine's Day or something like that, that she was sending out because there was like a meaning and a purpose behind it, that you've created a brand, but it's what it stands for is that what is impacting people and what people are flocking to at this point. It seems like.
It seems like it's
been so cool.
I was going to say, it just seems like that the community that you had started organizing is just like expanded through, House of Shannon, through the, like, just being able to have like something that you can gift, and the message that represents to one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, obviously people love to buy something that has a purpose, right? And the way that it started, even with like those sweatshirts donating to that shelter, became, let's donate $5 from every sweatshirt to the shelter. Then it's become, let's do it to feed the front lines when the pandemic happened. And then it was my block, my hood, my city. And like you were saying, your network of people and the people you're touching changes every month, because you keep picking different charities and you keep spreading this message and this love. And like, that's part of the reason why I think it's been so successful. I mean, who doesn't like helping other people when you're like buying something, right? Like Tom Shoes does that, right? Every time you buy a pair of shoes, someone else gets a pair of shoes, right?
Yeah, I think it feels good. I feel like especially this year it feels good. And I think people right now are wanting to support small businesses more than ever. This holiday season was so great. And I think, that's attributed to everyone wanted to shop small this holiday season. So yeah, it's been incredible. And also it's really cool, like this House of Good Shepherd shelter that we donated to. And then our first couple months of when we started, we donated to them, and we were able to give them, I think $3,000 is what we started with. And then I decided every year around November, December on the holidays, I want to circle back and donate to them again. So we just were able to donate another $3,000 to them. So it's been really cool. And they've been so welcoming to me and make me feel like such a part of it. Like next week I get to go and do an art class with the women at the shelter there. And so there's like some meaning behind it. It's been super cool.
So, I mean, it started with the market that you donated $5 for sweatshirts. And then once this grew, I mean, it would have been very easy for you to keep everything that you made for yourself. What inspired you to want to continue to give? Was it just like you didn't think twice about it, or was it hard? Was it hard to let go?
No, no one's ever asked me that. That's a great question. I feel like it just feels good to give. Like I feel like that's a part of who I am that makes me feel good, is giving gifts to people and that sort of thing. So to be able to do what I'm doing and be able to give back, it's been awesome. And like right now we're donating to Betsy's Blankets, which is a dear friend of mine who is also our neighbor. And she started this Betsy's Blanket in honor of her mom after her mom passed away. And they give brand new bedding and blankets to the homeless, to shelter animals, to cancer patients. And it just feels good. And like, try to do like every month or two change. And we haven't been, it's not really planned out. It just kind of all happens organically, kind of with, what's happening.
I don't think we ever talked about not doing it. I mean, like we said, this wasn't like, let's start a business, let's start a brand, let's have an apparel brand or whatever. It kind of just has continued to grow. Like those 20 sweatshirts turned into 50. And I think then it was like, oh, let's keep giving money to this charity. And then it became like, oh, people are really getting behind this, right? People, not only did it turn into, by the middle of the year, you're selling really comfortable sweatshirts during a pandemic that also are giving back to charity, right? Like there's to that too. Everyone's home and now no one's getting dressed up, and
yeah,
right. Like
you need 7 days worth of sweatshirts.
Pandemic did wonders for my sweats collection.
Exactly. So like the timing of it wasn't bad. Like it obviously wasn't planned that way, but like you're selling something that has a purpose and a meaning. And we have never struggled to figure out what the next charity is going to be. It's all become super easy to like shift, and it just has made sense every time we've moved to the next charity. Like someone will contact us and we'll be like, oh, that makes sense for breast cancer awareness, or that makes sense around winter to give to Betsy's blankets, and during the protests and the unrest this summer, My Block, My Hood, My City, who I have a relationship with the guy who started that, so that was super easy for us, and we've been involved with them before. So like it's all just like figuring out to do the sweatshirts after the market, what charities to donate to, and how we've grown that way. Like it's seemingly been like it's just made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it strikes me that, a lot of businesses are, they have a business plan, right? We need a product and we need to sell it and we need to hit these like revenue targets. And then when we're at a certain point, maybe we'll look at, giving back somewhere. But it seems like your story is the opposite, where you're a lot of like building community and building into people, and then thinking like, how can we give? How can we spread love? And, from that emerges House of Shan into the business that you've been building since then.
Yeah, I mean, kudos. In 2020, I saw that you gave over $20,000 to various organizations. I mean, that's just incredible. So that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it's been really cool. I think that is the best part by far. And then just seeing how proud people are to share when they're wearing the imperfect heart or holding it in a cup with a cup of coffee.
I've got mine. I
love it. That's hey, cheers.
Part of the draw of what Shannon has done, and is that basically everyone that gets one wants to share it. Like if someone gets one in the mail, it's like Instagram or however they want to share it, but like it's people all over spreading the word because they just get behind like the logo and the message and the charity. It's just like people do your advertising for you when you're putting something out into the world. I think that they like think is genuine and like authentic.
Yeah,
and that's seriously what it is. So that part has been awesome.
So obviously this was kind of Shannon's idea. It stemmed from this community of women that she had built, and then the 20 sweatshirts, bringing your brother in with almost like that permission of, yeah, you got to do it. So what is your role in all of this, Greg? Like, are you just the happy husband who's like, sure, make a sweatshirt? Was it hard? Was it easy?
Yeah,
and then how is that transpired?
At first, yes. Like I said, it was like, oh, well, she's going to do 20 sweatshirts. And it was, I was just happy to see her getting into something I knew she loved, because I know, she's been in fashion her whole life. And then it turned into, wow, like, oh, this is kind of nice. Like you're making, like some extra money, like grocery money, whatever. And then it's turned into, oh, we need to order like $5,000 worth of sweatshirts. How do we do that? Right. And then
it's turned into, oh my gosh, I need help.
Well, like as it's progressed, my role has changed a lot. But yesterday when you saw those boxes, like I was part of the assembly line helping her do that.
I should have probably showed that, huh?
But like I've taken over like doing all the taxes that go along with it, and figuring out like when we need to be charging sales tax. And I bought way too many sweatshirts paying tax on the wholesale side because of the way we were using my brother at the beginning. Like
just things you learn as like things it's all these mistakes that people talk about with the small business, all these like growing pains. We've we've had a ton of mistakes. We've had tons of things happen already, like that's real. But honestly, I feel like you're not giving yourself, like he helps with everything.
I do a lot of the customer service stuff. Like I'll help out on her email, like in responding to people that want to exchange and do all that stuff, because she's super occupied with people coming at her from all angles on Instagram and text messages. And I think many people don't realize from afar how much she's actually doing. Like, and everyone thinks they're like Shannon's best friend, which is awesome. People like text her being like, oh, hey, can I get this? And she'll show me like 10 of them. I'll be like, just tell them to go to the website. Right. And and that's fine. but like that takes her away from a lot of like the other stuff.
And to be honest, like filling orders, I mean, I've got my table right there. Like, I mean, that takes up, which is a good thing because we have orders to fill. But and Greg's like, okay, at some point we got to streamline this. These are like, again, the growing pains with small businesses. But I want to write a note with each. I have my note card, and I want to write everybody a personal note. And Greg's like, I think there's probably going to be a point where you can't do that anymore. I'm like, no, but that's the best part. Like I gotta write a handwritten note, even if it's something small, because I appreciate that. And I think that's why people are buying this from us as well, is because they know it's a small business and we all appreciate a handwritten note. I mean, like we don't get those very often anymore. So those types of things I take a lot of pride in, and I, probably take way too long to pack each order, but we'll streamline that. And we have, yeah.
We've also, to that, I think we've also, at the end of last year talked about what we wanted this year to look like. And I think the reason it's worked is because we haven't said, oh, we want to double our sales, or we want to make this much money, or what have you. It's been more like we're growing at our own pace, and we're creating stuff as we go, like different sweatshirts and drinkware and all this stuff. It kind of just keeps adding onto itself, but without the pressure of setting these expectations for ourselves, we've just been able to kind of continue to grow at a pace that like really works for us. And like that takes into account kids being at home, me still having a job, things like that, right? So like being able to like run a business on your own terms like that and not set expectations. Also, the fact that I'm helping her part-time is a really good thing, because if it was full-time and this was our only source of income, I think it becomes a job and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do, oh my gosh, we need to sell this much this year to support our family.
Right.
And at some point, I think it's going to become that. I do think at some point this will be something that we're doing together and like growing, but like thankfully it hasn't been something where we're like, oh, by the end of next year we need to have this in sales so that we can do this.
Yeah, and yeah.
So it keeps it.
You're right. I think a lot of people that I've talked to that have small businesses where that is obviously the stress, right? Like you have a job where we can get insurance and things like that, where this has been like we've been able to grow at our own pace. So yeah, like
but we need to hire an employee because she can't be packing bags all day, because we can grow in better ways and do better things and touch more people, and she can do all the things she needs to do if she's not standing there over that table packing bags.
Yeah. So not that it's a hobby necessarily, but it kind of emerged from just this passion that you guys share and a vision that you had, and like you said, like organically evolved. And so now at this point, this time last year, you didn't really know like what was going to become of it. But now that you've lived that last year, you can better kind of maybe define like, okay, this is what we enjoy and want to retain. Right. And this is where we see this going over the next year too.
Right.
Totally. I mean, I've realized like I've had the same job for 20 years. I like it. I love the people I work with. But now that I've been doing this, like I didn't think I would love trying to grow an apparel brand. But like it's turned into that, because like I'll have people ask me like, oh, someone who's not on Instagram, or someone who's a friend who doesn't really follow what's going on. Oh, like how's Shannon's like little business going? I'm like,
anymore. Like, hold on, I'm doing her customer service.
I'm like, it's kind of like turned into a full-fledged brand and a full-time job for her, which is amazing, but like that has its own challenges.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the boys at home all the time, right? I mean, that's kind of the, where we've been trying to find some sort of balance too, and that's really hard for me because I feel like I'm very type A like that. Like I woke up at 5 this morning and came down here and immediately started working because, as we all know, like we're all trying to find these little, gaps of time where we can get something done because we're trying to do all the things with our kids home all the time. So, yeah, it's just trying to find some balance too.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you live what you love and you love what you do, I mean, which is very evident from the both of you, like, is it hard to walk away and set boundaries, especially when your business is in your basement?
Yes.
Right? Like I can wake up at 5, like no makeup on, in my pajamas, look like a hot mess, package orders, get the kids fed. Yeah.
I give Rosanna a hard time because she'll be like, on her phone in the kitchen and she's like, I'm working right now. I'm like, well, this is kind of an awkward time and place to do that. But we really, because, thanks to technology and just thanks to really the conditions for this last year, like we have tried to find the ways to do that. So what's that looked like for you guys?
Yeah. I mean,
I'd say that's the one thing that like we like struggle the most with. Like her job, besides packing order stuff, is being on Instagram, responding to people, scheduling different events, and like it's full time. And like she could be on her phone or on her computer responding to people all day. Right?
Yeah, I know. You just have to put. I mean, in which it's easier said than done. You just got to put it away. Like last week we were watching movies every night of the week with the boys. We watched a couple good classics, and I'm like, I am putting my phone on the other side of the room. Otherwise, you're sitting and looking at your phone while you're watching a movie. I'm like, I'm not even paying attention. So like, just with your time, it's like, just be in the moment, right? So, and
that we struggle with that. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
Like it's hard getting time alone with the kids, right? Like one of the things we always say all the kids need more of is like one-on-one time. And I mean, let alone us getting time with each other because of the circumstances.
Right, God forbid.
I know that was on my list. I was like, yeah, like how do you keep your marriage thriving and not surviving when, right, this booms, but then you've got the boys, and we've said the same thing, like they need one-on-one with each of us, but there's 4, so you're like totally outnumbered.
Right. I don't know the answer to that. Do you guys know the answer?
Yeah. No. So, but that's, we like asking people that because we're like, well, they must know the answer or they have it all together.
But I think there's something too, have something that you can like both be working on and working towards. And I don't think that a lot of couples necessarily have that, or we have like homes and, with our kids, where we're kind of working on parenting together, but to have like a united vision that you guys are collaborating on, it's like an excuse to come together. And sometimes it probably feels more like work than others, but I would say that that's a great excuse you have right there.
Half the battle is, I mean, you guys are seeking it out, and it's having the awareness of wanting to do it, right? Like it's very easy to like come home from work and get into your routine of making dinner and doing the kids' homework and going to bed, and like, but to step back and have the awareness of, hey, as a couple, we want to spend time together, or as a couple or as a family, we know we need to give one-on-one time to each kid. Having that awareness, and then like you said, working towards something, like that's more than half the battle, right? Like it makes it happen, right? Because if you don't even think about it, then it's just going to go by the wayside.
Yeah.
So
what do your boys think of all this? Like, I follow you on social media, and we all know that it's always prettier and more cool online. Do they know how cool you are? Are they repping the brand? Are they telling their friends? Like how on board are they? How a part of it are they?
I mean, a couple of them wear the heart sweatshirts more than others, but all their friends are like in our neighborhood, right? Their circle of people is so small. And all their parents and all those people are like such huge supporters of Shannon. So like, it's rare that one of the kids that they hang out with comes to our house, or I see him when one of them doesn't have a heart sweatshirt on.
Yeah, that's the sweetest. I mean that, and honestly, when I, obviously when we first started doing this, and then we're like, oh, let's do some kids. I was thinking, I didn't think men or boys would probably wear the heart. I was more, a heart. It's feminine. It's on your chest. So many dudes wear the heart. It's so cool. I mean, all the time. And these boys that are, at the age where they're trying, they're kind of at the age where they like want to be cool and whatever. And they're all wearing my heart all the time. It's just like, it's the coolest. And I think, and also going back to what we were saying, I think for our boys to watch us do this together and to see Greg kind of take the back seat and like support what I'm doing, and for them to hear these conversations, I think it's great. I think it's great for them to see, and I mean, sometimes, yes, there needs to be more balance. Sometimes I work later than I should at night or whatever. But yeah, for the most part, it's I feel like they're fully on board. they're really into it.
I think they think it's cool, right? Like they're wearing their mom's sweatshirt. Like their teacher will be wearing the sweatshirt sometime, and they'll like come and tell us. Or it's just it's one of those things that there's not a. I mean, minus the time it takes for us to do it. There's not a ton of negatives to it, right? Like you're teaching your kids that you can create something from nothing. That you can do something you love, like your mom loves fashion. She created this out of nowhere. Your parents can work together. Like they couldn't be more like excited about it. Super cool.
Yeah, I mean, what example that sets for them as young men, like as they grow older, right? And then they get interested in girls and they're looking for a partner someday, like, like, oh, I want someone like that my dad has in my mom, like, and I'm going to support them and I'm going to build them up and I'm going to push them to do great things. Like those are going to be some really cool kids, some really great men,
Yeah, I love that. It's a good example. Like
it's good. And like it's not taught, but like it's good for them to understand their feminine side, to understand that it's okay to wear a heart or to wear pink or to be sensitive or do the quote unquote like those feminine things. Like men don't teach their boys those things, right? At all. Like I should say most men of like our generation didn't get taught those things by their parents, right? And that's not at all why this started, but I'm just saying that through this conversation, it's one of those things that like they're going to absorb that without even knowing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do they help with any part of the business or the process at all?
A little bit. Like once in a while I'll have them.
Sometimes it's a little awkward.
You help by staying out of the way.
Yeah.
They'll like put a bunch of like pins in a jar.
There you go.
They'll
age appropriate types of things.
Right. And they'll be like, oh, okay, you didn't fold that. Okay, let's do that. Oh yeah. It's my type A in me. But they're great. Like I feel like they're always drawing pictures of hearts and they're into it. They see imperfect hearts everywhere. That's what I love too. Mom, look, a heart, So it's been cool from that perspective.
Yeah.
So what motivates you on the hard days? On the days where there's a lot of orders and people are constantly asking you for things and looking for referrals and the kids are everywhere and Greg's busy with work. Like what gets you through? What part of all of this kind of keeps you centered?
It's a good question. I'd like to know the answer.
I think it's truly just because most days I still pinch myself. I can't believe that this has grown into what it has and that people, are sharing this. And so I think it's the message and the community. I think that's what keeps me going. And honestly, I take pictures often of notes that I write to people because those just melt me. Like some of these notes that I write when people, sending love to someone, like, and I get to do that, right? I get to be I get to send this love from this person and be a part of this. Like that makes my day. Like packing all those boxes of love last night. Well, we did, sorry. I don't give them enough credit. So yeah, that's what keeps me motivated.
I think for Shannon, who was in the fashion industry via like selling like as a Midwest rep for a clothing line, to have people like say to her, like, can you believe that you have your own brand? Like that's the pinch yourself.
Yeah, because I'm like, wow.
It's true because like someone told her like a little over a year ago, and she's this woman she's not a clairvoyant or anything like that, but she's like one of those kind of mystical people that like got to know Shannon a little bit. And she's like literally told her, she's like, you're gonna have a clothing line someday. And Shannon's like laughed.
She did.
Wait, when was this?
Yeah. I think she is a clairvoyant. I don't know.
She said a little over a year ago.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
Well, right, because when you started House of Shan, how old were you?
I was 40, right?
Okay.
I was 40. Yeah. So I mean that's
when the website started?
That was
right around there.
Yeah, I was right around 40. So that's the other thing too, is I feel like you know, for people listening, it's like, you know, I feel like a lot of times women, you know, especially men too, but you know, when we're home for a number of years and you kind of feel so out of things, like you feel out of the workforce, you feel out of, you know, like, oh gosh, what do I have to offer? Right. Um, and I think like for me at 40, like I got this like new confidence. I was like, you know what? I, I, who cares what other people think? I'm gonna put, you know, like, and I think that I kind of had that going for me too. It's just like, just do it, you know? And I feel like, I think, like I said in the beginning, we talk ourselves out of things. And like, this is proof, like, you know, at 40, you know, 41 years old, you can start something and, you know, just believe in yourself, I guess, right? Just believe it.
Yeah, I think it's funny because to an extent, like we almost realize at that point, then like the world is waiting for someone to like help bring us together and help give us, you know, common cause and, you know, inspiration and love, and to be. So I mean, I would argue that this is more than like a message or brand, but you are like genuinely like leaders that, you know, people are following and inspired by, and I think probably being able to not just spread love but live better lives according to like the model that you set for them.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're not yet 40, we're both 38. And you know, like the idea for a lot of the things we've done, like, you know, you go to school, right? You have your degree, you work in that degree. Same thing with me. I had kids, so I was a teacher at one point and I stopped that. And then just have dabbled here and there with like an Etsy shop. And now I do wedding and events, like as a day
said
of
that
coordinator.
same thing too. Like,
but it's like, what am I
offer,
doing? What do I have to offer? And, you know, someone saying like, you know, I could see you doing this. Why don't you just try it? Or, you know, someone hired me to do something one time and then it became something. And it's sometimes we hold ourselves back from trying because we're like, well, I can't do that.
Right.
But then just figuring out that you really can. And
well, I've offered to help with her event planning. I'm like, I could totally, you know, help you decorate. She's like, no. At this one, I think I'll go solo.
I'll outsource on this one.
I'll have a role to play someday.
But you know, in our 20s, we would have thought like by 40, you're supposed to be at a certain spot or have it all together or have worked this many years in your industry and then be at the top of your game. And what I'm finding when I look around is a lot of people have reinvented, have totally shifted, have found something that your 20-year-old self is not the same as your 40-year-old self. And so knowing that those opportunities are there, or if there's something in your heart that you can create that opportunity for yourself too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that.
I mean, for me, it's like I've been doing the same thing for 20 years, like you said, and my industry at being a trader has totally changed. So like now I'm at the point where I'm like deciding like, do I really like this anymore? Right? Why do I like it? And do I want to keep doing something I don't like? Or do I want to keep doing something, you know, for X amount of time? Or do I want to just dive in head first with what she's doing because we love it? And like that gets a little scary, right? You're like, oh geez, I only know I mean, and now I'm learning how to do other things, but like
no, but it's funny though, because like again, like we just got new tissue paper, very exciting, you guys.
Oh, I know.
And I'm like, and it's, you know, this cute like imperfect heart printed paper, and I'm like, that was all Greg. Like he does these, like he'll be on, you know, a website and come up and he'll be like, oh, we should get this. I'm like, perfect. Like he's a creative too, you know, he's just been using this other side of his brain for so long that I feel like it's all coming out.
I think you had asked earlier what some of the roles, I think one of my roles too is that I have gotten her to take a little more risk with.
He pushes me in a good way.
Like I'll be like, how many of these should we buy? And she'll be like, oh, let's.
I'll be like 2.
Although 2 is probably more expensive than 12 or 25. Yeah. So
she'll be like, let's buy like 10 of each. I'll be like, all right, we're gonna buy 25 of each.
Yeah.
And you're gonna sell them because everything you've shown that you're gonna do it, and then it's gonna be easier as we move forward because we're not gonna have to worry about ordering again and going through this again.
Yeah.
So like.
And then I typically say, you were right.
No, but I think
those magic words.
Yeah.
And that's the fun part for me too, is like I have helped with some of the stuff. So like for me, it's been fun, like the drinkware or the tissue or something like that. Like I like figuring out how to find it, how to get it made, how much we need to order to make it cost effective, figuring out like that side of it, like that part's interesting to me. Yeah. And I don't think that's interesting to her at all. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So you found it a nice way to complement one another.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
I feel like that's like marriage, and now it's like, finding your role too, like in this new, business too. It's like you figure it out as you go, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and even to Greg's point about, working in the same industry for a long time, and now it's changing, and kind of even having that moment of, do I want to keep doing this? Sure. Like sometimes I even think of like our parents' generation probably worked the same job or the same career for their whole lives with never questioning, is this what I really want to be doing? And saying no to a sure thing instead of leaping for something that may or may not work out. Yeah. But when you're the husband and you carry, like, he's got great insurance and benefits, it's like, how do you say no to that? Is the risk worth it? So I think sometimes as the men in our lives, that's, you don't want to close the door too quickly.
Right.
But if things are trending a good way for House of Shan, how exciting, to make a move.
Like the company that I work at, it's a smaller trading company, and some of our best friends, from our early 20s through to now, and they still are like our best friends. Like, and we had all of our life events together, right? We had marriages and kids, and we went through all the same things together. Some of those people, some of my best friends that I worked with for 15 plus years, have started to leave, right? And they've started to leave to do other things. And so
kind of following their passion,
doing the type of stuff that you're talking about. So like prior to House of Shan, I'd always been like, well, maybe I would consider doing that too, but I just have no idea.
I haven't found your thing.
Right? Like, what would it be? Like, I'm pretty good at what I do. I'm not great, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it anymore, right? Like, you're a great trader, you don't have to trade anymore. But prior to seeing her kind of create this and working with this on her, I'd always been like, well, I would have no idea what I want to do. So that's been kind of cool for me too, to understand that, like you guys have said, like at 40, like there is more stuff out there, and I can do more than what I'm doing right now. I have the capability to do it if I want.
Yeah.
So what would you say are your biggest takeaways from the last year? If you like an aha moment or something that maybe was like a light bulb went off and it was like, this past year, this is it. Like, what would it be? Is there anything that really stands out?
I mean,
for me, it was a couple of the times when I was like placing orders for sweatshirts, and I looked at like the amount of inventory we had bought over a very short period of time, and I was like, kind of took a step back and be like, I didn't even blink, like I didn't even think about it when I was buying it. And I was like, that was a lot of sweatshirts. And I kind of had those moments where I was like, this is really like, this is going to turn into like a real business. To me, like the moment where I realized it was like, went from hobby, passion, project, selling 50 sweatshirts to like, I was witnessing it become a brand. That to me was like, and there wasn't a one moment, but it was some of those moments where I was like, okay, like we just bought a lot of sweatshirts. Like this is more than just for fun at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, oh gosh, I mean, I think I've had so many over this year because like I said, I still pinch myself. I think there's been so many beautiful moments within this year. And I feel like a couple that stand out are like, I had a group of women in Simpsonville, South Carolina. It like makes me cry thinking about it. One of their friends is going through a pretty intense cancer treatment right now. And they bought, I think there was probably 60 or 70 people that bought these green t-shirts with the pink heart on them, men, women, kids. They all bought them to wear every time she had a chemo day, and they still wear them every time she has a chemo day. Like that to me is so cool. Like they bought the imperfect heart to signify their support and their love towards her. Right. So for me, I can't believe that. Like, it's so beautiful. And that's why this all is happening. So like, I've had a few moments like that, or several moments like that over this year that touch me so deeply. So,
but that like t-shirt, when you made it, was called the Chris T, which is two of her best friends' names, and it was like the friendship T. So like people get behind it, right? Like 60 people or whomever are wearing the friendship T when their friend is having chemo. Like, it's cool. I'm getting teary-eyed thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, because it's not just a t-shirt. It's
Right.
not just a
like,
t-shirt,
yeah,
especially now when people can't be together. And
pretty
if you're sick,
special
you
to
you
be able
can't
to
be
do
with
that.
someone else, and you can't. You
right.
know, a text sometimes doesn't do it, but you know, to get a text of somebody else wearing that t-shirt on that day and knowing
Right.
that people are rallying, it's life-changing to have
Right.
that kind of support.
Yeah. Well, it's really special too to know, like, just to know those stories as well. I mean, I don't think very many brands can do that. A lot of times it's like you bought a t-shirt because you needed something warm. But in this case, there is a story behind a lot of the purchase, and you get to hear those and be a part of how they play out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty cool. So I'm very grateful. Yeah. It's been so much fun.
So if people want to learn more about House of Shan, where should they go? How can they find out what charities that you're donating to each month? How can they order? How can they help you spread awareness about living what you love?
Yeah, you can go to houseofshan.com, and we have a charities tab, so you can see all the charities we've donated to. You can see the current charity we're donating to. You can hit the shop button if you want to check out our shop. We also have a really cool tab that was just added that I love looking at too. It's the LWYL tab, or LWYL love tab, and it's just showing all sorts of different families and kids and people wearing the imperfect heart. So
I think I saw a couple celebrities on there, some Chicago celebrities wearing that sweatshirt.
Yeah,
I was like, so cool.
Yeah, that's been kind of cool too. There's been a couple people that have gotten behind it that, I mean, pinch me, right? It's just cool.
Pinch you.
And like our friends who know celebrities, like give it to them. But it's still always cool when people.
A friend of a friend, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. What is that?
Yes, exactly. It's not what you know, it's who you know. You just gotta share.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today, for telling us about your story, the way that you guys work together, how you're doing this amongst, a pandemic and kids, and still spreading these messages of love and positivity, and really being, exactly what people need right now, even though they didn't know they needed it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
great to be here.
Thank you for having us. Also, like, I think we feel honored that people like yourselves that are doing something so cool and following some of your dreams and having a podcast would think of us. And like, I read the email that you first sent, and it was so thoughtful, like, and well written, and it just made us both feel super proud. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, hopefully when this pandemic thing blows over, we'll come down to the city and meet you in person.
It's a big day
Lots
for
of more
us.
stories.
Suburbanites get to come down to the city, so it's great.
Well, thank you guys both so much. We will make sure that all of our friends and followers check out House of Shan and see what you're up to in 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Okay, well, we hope that you are feeling as refreshed and as inspired as we are after that conversation with Shannon and Greg.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes what you see on social media isn't always what you get, but I felt like who they really are as a couple and what they're doing with their business and as a brand is, I mean, they're even cooler than what they're putting out there.
It's like we talked for an hour or so, and it's like, I could spend a little more time with you.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I could learn a little bit more from you.
That the fact that they do live close, and hopefully once the world is back to normal, I definitely look forward to meeting them in person and hearing more about what they're doing and how they're doing it. Yeah,
and seeing where it goes from here. So there were several things that we both kind of took away from this conversation, and I almost don't know where to start, but I think maybe I'll start with what struck me the most, and to maybe earlier in the conversation, was that Shannon had talked about even, before House of Shan really became a thing, she was just kind of on her own finding ways to just bring people together. And House of Shan is not doing something different now. It's that's kind of what's emerged and continues to, I think, bring like rally people around one another, rally them around some, I would say, some positive concepts and positive feelings of love and togetherness and community. And so I was really just interested in that aspect, and am inspired by people who, almost like for the, I don't want to say for the fun of it, but like just because that's what they want to do. They want to bring people together and create something good. And obviously she's been doing that for some time, and that really kind of took off in the way that it did over the last year.
Yeah, well, we live in a world now where people can be pretty independent. We don't need to rely on other people for things like we used to. But what she found after being at home with the first three boys is that she felt lonely and she needed to feel connection. And so knowing that she needed that, she, that let her know that other people needed that too. And so then that's kind of what she's doing now with her merchandise and with her brand. I mean, in a time when small businesses have been closing their doors and have been, just overwhelmed by the pandemic and what's happening, House of Shan not only launched during that time, but is growing and thriving.
Yeah. I think that tells you something. I mean, because you can get certain types of apparel from almost anywhere, but you can't get what House of Shan really offers. And that shows you too, just going off what you're saying, that it is, and I think I mentioned this in the interview, like that is a type of leadership as well. Like if like there's a bunch of people who are all kind of thinking or feeling the same thing, to step forward and be the one to rally those people together behind like a common cause and to build that community, I think that really says something.
Well, and they mentioned this too is, Greg has a great job that affords them, insurance and benefits and a roof over their heads. And so House of Shan has never been about like hitting a certain number of sales. Sometimes when your business is around, making a certain number of sales to hit a certain point so that you can feed your family, like the pressure is on. And sometimes maybe you get lost in like what your mission and what your message is. But this, they just kept following this. What she had started with House of Shan, to the next thing and to the next thing, and just kept saying yes when it felt right. And so it continues to be about a mission and people. And when a mission and people are your focus, it's easy to find fulfillment. It's easy to find purpose, and it's easy to love what you do.
Yeah. So how did you phrase it to me? It's like moving towards the vision, right? Because as they continued down this path, they realized, and how do we describe, like almost accidentally or almost like reverse, like didn't really intend on starting what it's become over the last year, but as that emerged, like moving towards that, embracing that, and finding ways to more intentionally build into it.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't a clear plan for this or a direction or like a year from now, this is what we're going to be doing. But now they're starting to look at that because it's continued to emerge. So they just keep taking steps in the direction as doors open. They continue to say yes as it leads them by doing podcasts and other things and spreading the word.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this too when we brought it up. Like, all right, so you've donated $20,000 within the past year. That's a lot of money. Don't you, right, in a sense, I think like, man, like what could I really do with that? And just their sense of like, no, like that's, the question almost didn't make sense to them. Like what else could you do with that? Or is there any sense of wanting to, with, I guess, like withhold that in a sense for your own like benefit? Because no, it's like that doesn't, that's not the point. The point is to bring people together and to do good. And what has emerged from that is a business that we're kind of figuring out as we go. And to me, that's also inspiring too, to be like the point is to give, to in a selfless kind of way find how we can enact some good within our community.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously they're both able to donate large sums of money, and they pick a different organization and nonprofit each month, kind of depending on the season and kind of and what's going on. But living what you love, like the brand and the merchandise, people are sending and spreading love to others while supporting great causes. Yeah. So she talks about stories of people going through cancer treatment and family and friends all buying the same sweatshirt. And when that person is going through treatment on Thursdays, they all wear it. So it's people are rallying behind other people and the people that they love. Mm-hmm. Even they're getting their kids on board. They have, little boys and little girls things. They have other merchandise. Like people are sending love with the intention of also spreading love.
Right.
And a message of giving and a message of open-handedness instead of closed-mindedness.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the way that you're putting that. And to me, and hopefully to you as well, like that's inspiring. Like my takeaway is just like, okay, like building sort of a platform or a way to facilitate love in community. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, it really stems from what we've been trying to talk about during Love Month with loving our neighbors, loving each other, loving ourselves, and, even how to love people that we don't yet know, right? Buy something from her, and $5 from that purchase is going directly to a charity. And you can hop onto her website and see, what charity is being supported that month. And maybe that even, gets you thinking about, well, why not just make a donation to that charity as well?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that is a little bit of our motto this year as well, and like one of our goals. So I think there's anything that's maybe is motivation for me, at least, to like stick with our goal this year and to see it through and find a charity each month that we can get behind and we can support financially as well.
Yeah, so they can, if you guys are listening, you can check our website and you can see what charities we are donating to each month throughout 2021.
Absolutely. All right, well, again, we hope that you enjoyed the conversation that we're able to share with you with Shannon and Greg. And as always, we hope that you give us a little bit of feedback and love about what you're learning and what you are pursuing as well.
Have a great day. See you next week.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening to today's show. We hope you will use this conversation as a starting point for your own. We hope you are encouraged to think and act more intentionally.
If you want to learn more, you can visit our website, therelentlesspursuitpodcast.com, where you can find notes on today's show, plus additional blog posts, and you can subscribe to our free members list.
Please subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends.
Facebook and Instagram are two great places to connect with us for daily doses of our quotable quotes, behind the scenes, and real-time photos, videos, and challenges.
Until next time, let us know how you are taking life off autopilot
and relentlessly pursuing what matters.